Okay, well, let's welcome Jack Cotton here to the summit so we could see him there. Thanks a lot, Jack, for being here today.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm excited that you're here. You are our luxury real estate expert, and you're somebody we've known each other for a couple years now. So I'm very thankful that that you're helping out here.
It's my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be invited.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So like we talked about before, you're going to give your 3 tips on how to help a realtor with their business. At the end of the 3 tips, I do have a bonus question, but very easy.
Okay. All right. I love surprises.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd let you kind of roll with it, and then I might have questions that as you go along, but after you do your first tip, maybe I'll clarify and ask a question. So I'll let you go with it.
Okay. The more questions, the better. I love questions. But, I'm not here plugging my book, but I just want to mention that for 1 second, because as part of, getting my book on the bestseller list a couple of years ago, I offered free 20-minute coaching calls with anyone who bought the book. That's no longer anymore. But based on that experience of a year of talking to people literally from all over the world with their biggest questions as to how they can break into the luxury real estate market, I was amazed at how similar all the questions were, whether it was from New Zealand or from this country. And basically, people ask, how do I break in? How do I break in when there's already a dominant player in the luxury market? How do I make my beachhead in that luxury market? And so I think I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that today, if that's okay with you.
No, that's perfect, because I think for me, I hear that too, how can I get luxury listings, luxury buyers? So I think that's very helpful.
Right. So we'll work with the time frame that we have. First of all, and this should come as no surprise to anyone, people in the high end want to deal with people they perceive to be experts. You have to be perceived as an expert. Think about if you ever have an occasion to talk to a high net worth individual, we call them HNWIs for short, high net worth individuals. What do they talk about? Oh, they talk about when their elbow is sore, they went to the best orthopedic surgeon. In fact, I've got the same orthopedic surgeon that works in all the Boston Bruins or the Boston Patriots, New England Patriots. Or when they talk about their tax accountant, I have the same tax accountant that Tom Brady uses. He's a real expert. No matter what field they're in, they want to deal with someone who they perceive as being an expert. So for you to break into luxury real estate, you must be seen as a luxury real estate expert. And there's a little pathway to achieving that level of expertise. Number 1, I tell people that they need to create a 2-year history of knowledge about the market that they are choosing to specialize in. So I call that mapping your market. All right, you're in St. Louis, you're in Oklahoma, I don't care where you are. Identify your luxury market in that area where you're in and identify it geographically. What are the boundaries? Then learn everything there is to know about that market, everything that occurred to that market, say, for the past 2 years. Who are the big buyers in there? Who are the sellers in there? Who are the developers, builders, and architects in there? Are there any famous people there? Where are people coming from? Are they coming from, is there a feeder market somewhere else, even outside the area or outside the state even? Check every single sale that occurred and, calculate what was the sales price per square foot? What was the sales price per acre? What was the sales price compared to the tax assessment? What was the average listed sales price ratio? Build some benchmarks. Become really an expert in market and value in your chosen little luxury niche in your marketplace. Then, with that expertise now, you can market that expertise to some very key players in your luxury market. Number 1, this will also not be a surprise to anyone, that high net worth individuals typically have gatekeepers, otherwise known as attorneys, otherwise known as CPAs, otherwise known as trust officers at banks, for example. When you have this expertise, now you can market to the gatekeepers because they need to give their clients, their high net worth individual clients, updated market data about their real estate every single year. Because wealthy people are obsessed with minimizing their taxes. Their property taxes, number 1, and their inheritance taxes, number 2. For that reason, they tend to put their expensive properties in your marketplace into one kind of a trust or another. You don't need to be a trust expert. I certainly am not. All I know is that when you put your expensive property in a trust, you need to have an updated CMA every single year. Notice I said CMA, not appraisal. So they don't need an appraisal. They don't need to pay for that. But you can bring value to the gatekeepers in your marketplace by marketing your newfound expertise to help them look like geniuses to their high net worth individual clients. That's a long-term strategy. That will take time to do. The shorter term strategy, which might be a little bit surprising to people, is that in the high end, expireds are not as scarce as you might think. There's a lot of expired listings in the high end, and the number one reason is that a lot of people get into luxury real estate for the wrong reasons. They believe that you just say, I'm going to do this, and the money just flows in, and or you come from a family that had a lot of money and the money's gone now, but you have a lot of great connections and a great Rolodex, and you can just show up and get listings. And sadly, that kind of is the case. So a lot of times agents just show up, they get a listing, and then they have no idea what to do afterwards. So therefore, we see a lot of expireds in the luxury market. What I tell people is that if you want to get an appointment with an expired listing in any price range, but especially the high end, you've got to bring value to the seller who has just experienced the highest level of rejection that any person in the world can receive, and that is putting their property out there on the marketplace and having people come and see it, not buy it, or worse, having people not come and see it at all. I mean, does rejection get any stronger than that? And more, is it any more like a stab in the heart than having the place where you live rejected? So there's a lot of pain there. So how do we bring value to a person who's feeling that kind of pain? Well, here's the dialogue I use. Mr. Mrs. Seller, I see your property is no longer on the market. The first thing you have to ask, of course, have you relisted? So now we have the rules and regulations out of the way. The next thing I say is that, listen, in my blank years of experience, and in my case it's 42, in your case it might be less, so you could change that dialogue to say, in the collective 127 years of experience in my office, we have noticed that there are 4 factors that cause a property to sell or not sell. If you can give me 10 or 15 minutes in your property, I can tell you which one of those factors was the reason your property did not sell. When would you like me to come over? See, you're not, most people when they call on an expired listing start saying, I'm the greatest, I can do this, I can, it's all about me, 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 me. How great I am, all the designations I have, I'm a top producer, I'm this, I'm that. And that is not really speaking to the interest of the client who's feeling rejected, dejected, neglected, and last to be selected among all the buyers. So you need to bring value to them. And by creating that curiosity, there's 4 factors that cause a property to sell or not sell. If you give me 10 or 15 minutes in your home, I can tell you which one caused your property not to sell. Now
the thing I like there really quick is that you're closing on getting in front of them.
Yes.
And that's so important because a lot of people that call in expired listings, it's if they're trying to get the listing on the phone.
It's not going to work in the high end.
Exactly.
It's not going to work in the high end. And what works in the high end on every aspect, but especially with expireds, is to bring value. And by telling them which of the 4 factors cause their property not to sell is value. Now, some people you talk to will mention 3 factors that cause a property to sell or not sell. I have a 4th one. Now, understand that in the back of their mind, these are not stupid people. They're thinking they're going to try to get a price reduction. They're going to come after me for the price. So of the 4 factors, you want to make sure that price is the last one you bring up. The first one I bring up is the market, the economy, the terms. I call it terms. Terms are the number 1 factor that cause a property to sell or not sell. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the availability, the cost of money to finance the purchase of real estate is what we call terms. And we are still in a market, in a climate where terms are historically low. I mean, Ward and June Cleaver 35 years ago didn't get a mortgage at the rates you can get a mortgage for today. These rates are ridiculous. And the money's plentiful. Yeah, it takes longer to process now. Yeah, the new disclose, the new know before you owe law is a pain in the neck. But the money's there and the money is cheap. If your property didn't sell in this market, it means there's something really wrong with the other 3 factors. So let's visit those. The next one after terms is condition. What kind of condition is the property in? And condition could all be satisfied with price also. But when you're looking at the property and you see condition issues, that could be the reason it didn't sell. So that's a case-by-case situation. I can't, this is hypothetical, so I don't know the answer, but condition is the second factor. The third factor is marketing. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what kind of marketing did you have in your house? And they're always going to say, we had none. They didn't do anything. No ads. No ads anywhere. We wanted ads. There were no ads. How could people know my house was for sale if there were no ads for my house? There were no ads. They may say that. Or they may say more commonly, we don't know. We have no idea. We never heard anything. We don't know if they did any marketing or not. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one thing that we do when we market properties, we understand, number one, that the market is really online now. So something we really have to do is measure the response of people online. And I'll give you a report every 2 weeks, letting you know how many people looked at your property online. And here's the thing. If we see lots and lots of people looking at your property online and they're not coming through the door, that's an indicator, which I'll discuss in a moment. But that's something we really have to watch out for. On average, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we should see one person through the door for every 1,000 people who look online. Bad average, but luckily, lots of people look at properties online. So that's a ballpark average, 1,000 to 1. So how many people came through your door? They might say 2. I was just at a house. They said 2. And then I said, well, how many people looked at your house online? No idea. Well, did you get a report showing, a weekly report or a bi-weekly report or showing their web traffic? Never heard of such a thing. I mean, it's such an easy thing to do. I mean, Realtor.com, you can just log in as an agent and you can print out this really phenomenal report that shows how many people looked at the house. Your company website should have that. Your personal agent website should have that. Zillow does it. Trulia does it. You can get all these reports and show people how many people are looking at their house online. So depending on how the conversation goes, it may or may not be the marketing. But now we can get to talk about the price, because Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the fourth force that controls the sale of any property after terms, after condition, after marketing, is the price. You've had lots of people looking online and nobody coming through the door. I told you it's 1,000 to 1. If they're not coming through the door, that is a signal that the market is rejecting your value proposition. Let me ask you this. How did you arrive at the price that you used to go to market last time you came on the market? And so now you just talk about the price. And then you go into your whole presentation about how you do the price. So that's the long way is the gatekeepers. The quick way is the expireds. You need to be doing both at the same time so that you can have business near term and also business long term. But anyway, I think I started by talking about expertise. In both cases, you need to demonstrate expertise in the market, and having that 2-year history of everything that's gone on is going to make you stronger during that presentation with a seller, and it's going to help you bring value to gatekeepers, which in turn makes them look like heroes to their clients, and they will refer you when the client needs a realtor to buy or sell property.
So I had a question about, when you're doing the expired and you're in there with the, the sellers, everything that you went through, I mean, it makes such great sense. So what is your closing percentage of getting a listing when you get in front of them, you talk through these issues, and whatever the issues are, like you said, there's something that's holding them back from selling it. Are you getting those listings most of the time?
Yeah, I've got kind of a smart aleck answer to that. But I get pretty close to 100% of the ones I want. Because sometimes I don't want them.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I have this dream, I have this fantasy. I've had it for a long time in real estate. It is basically, and I'm working towards it. I've not realized my fantasy, but I come really close sometimes. I came really close this week on a listing presentation on an expired listing. My fantasy listing presentation goes like this. It's 1 sentence long. It goes like this. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Don't blink. If you blink, you might miss it. But here we go. So Mario, tell me why I should take your listing. Is that a killer presentation?
Yeah. Because you're a good realtor.
Yeah, tell me why I should take your listing. I want them to sell me and why they should take. I mean, I'm at this house the other day and they're like, oh, and I'm telling them all the reasons why I'm probably not the guy for them. And And I said, oh, by the way, I have one more thing. I charge more than the last agent you had. I can tell by the Kofi they have an MLS that I also charge more. And their face was like ashen. It was just shock. And they said, well, what do you charge? And I told them. They said, well, is that negotiable? I said, not today. But I'll leave now if you want me to. It's fine. I totally get it if that's what you want to do. And when I went back to the office, I said, I'm not sure we're getting this one. I don't think we're going to get this listing. I mean, everything kind of was a problem, capping it off with my fee. And then before the day was out, I had the email saying, please send us the paperwork.
That's awesome.
I said, the more you don't want the listing, the more you're going to get it. And the tougher your terms are, the more you will get it. But,
so do your closing line again, because it went so fast. I want to make sure we get it.
Which one? The one? No, my fantasy presentation.
Yeah. Just give me your fantasy presentation, because that was good.
So Mario, tell me why I should take your listing.
Yeah, that's great.
What do you mean, Jack? I mean, I'm only going to carry this many listings. I've got one open spot. I want to get just the right listing to fill that open spot. Tell me why yours is the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I call, when I was younger, the takeaway close. You take it away from them, and when you take it away, then they're like, wait. No, we want you to be our realtor.
Right. Well, the takeaway close in real estate, you can call it that. And the other thing the guiding principle of the takeaway close is detaching from the outcome. Agents have this ingrained belief that they have to get every single listing they go on, whether they want it or not. If I don't get this listing, I'm a complete, abject, total failure. And you have to erase that thought from your mind, because you don't always want every single listing. So detaching from the outcome is the way to go.
Yeah, and another way to say that is just separating your emotions from what's happening and looking at it matter of fact.
Right, you got it. So that's tip. Is that still tip number one? Man, that was a long tip.
But it's a good tip.
Yeah.
Because I like how you just do the step-by-step with the expireds. And a lot of people, and I know me as well, we get intimidated by calling on expireds, and we get intimidated by going out there and talking to the seller. And it's a very easy process to do.
Hey, what's fun, Mario? And I don't do this on purpose, but it happened to me late summer, early fall. I had a listing, and it was due to expire, and I couldn't reach the seller. I mean, they said they were going to renew. Oh, she was going to come up and sign it. Then there was bad weather, and she never got here to sign the renewal. And I don't like to fudge it and, make fake renewals in MLS, but I couldn't reach them, so it expired. And then she finally got back to me, and she said, I'm sorry, we've been traveling, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm signing it and sending it back right now. But by the way, I have about 15 letters here from agents all telling me they have buyers for the house. And I said, well, just send those to me. And, just send those to me. And it's fascinating to see what people send out to expired. So I'm thinking, what a great exercise this is to do. I hate to be less than above board or up front in life or in business, but to have a listing expire with a seller who is still cooperative with you is very eye-opening and enlightening to see what these other agents are saying, because none of them are bringing value to the seller. Not one person said to my seller, there's probably 4 reasons, there's 4 factors that cause your house to sell or not sell. If you give me 10 minutes in your home, I can tell you which one caused your property not to sell. Every single thing was about, I have tons of buyers, I've got a hot buyer, I've got all these buyers. I mean, you don't have any buyers. I mean, why do you say such stupid stuff that isn't true anymore? I mean, in this day and age, and these politicians, it just astounds me they don't learn this. More than ever, I mean, I've always had this belief that everybody finds out everything sooner or later. It's just with the internet age and everything that's out there today, it just happens 100 times faster. Everybody finds everything out. If you lie to get a listing appointment or a listing presentation, they are going to find out. People aren't stupid. And that's something I've learned about the high end also, is that these are not stupid people. And they have really, really good BS detectors. I mean, this lady's telling me, you can't believe the crap I got in the mail and the phone calls I got from these people telling me they all had buyers in my house. And she was more cynical than anyone. If it was a lower price point, I believe, and I'm just being careful what I say here, but a less sophisticated seller is likely to believe that stuff and be hooked by it. But the higher you go in price range, these are smart people. They've done it before. They can tell a fake come on when they see it. I just couldn't believe on a 2.7 or 2, I can't remember, it's $2.8 million house that people would use this blatant, crass, and not totally truthful approach to try to get an expired listing. I mean, anyway, bring value. That's the thread that goes through everything. Bring value.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it fits in with, your style and my style. Just be honest.
Right.
Don't try to misrepresent. Don't try to make it look any better than it is. And just be honest. And the sophisticated clients, the sellers, they appreciate that even more.
You want to be an honest real estate agent. I've heard that somewhere before. I'm not. Anyway, it has a familiar ring to it. Maybe you can refresh my memory. But anyway, you want to be an honest real estate agent because you do. I don't care what the price range is. All I'm telling you is that if you're not, and you want to get found out, start working in the high end because a lot of people made their fortunes by being excellent judges of people and character. They can get phenomenal BS detectors.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
we go into tip 2.
Let's do tip number 2. And I'm jumping around here because that's what makes it fun. But tip number 2 is what I call the big O because it gets people's attention, the big O. And the big O is what keeps 99% of agents on the sidelines of the luxury real estate market. The big O, what could that be? The big O is this. The big O is that objection you might get when you go on your first luxury listing appointment when the seller says to you, everything sounds great, everything sounds wonderful, I think you're a phenomenal agent, I think you do a great job selling my house. Let me ask you one quick question. How many homes have you sold in my price range? How many homes have you sold in my market? Ugh. How many homes have you sold over $1 million? Oh, that's the big O. But the answer is 0, 0, 0. I don't know how to respond to that. And I know, in fact, you ever heard that thing about from goal setting? Whatever you focus on becomes real. I'm not a big golfer, but once or twice I play golf and I'll see the pond or I'll see the sand trap and I'm like, oh, a sand trap, a pond, I can't hit that. What do? You hit it, right? So if you go on a listing presentation, all focused on the big O, guess what they're going to ask you right away? How many homes have you sold over $1 million? How many homes have you sold in my market? How many $1 million buyers do you have? And you know the answer is 0. And it's funny, I've heard other people give advice to agents on how to overcome the big O. And they'll say things like, well, change the subject or talk about something else or bring up a question or, distract them. Or, when it comes back to what I said a moment ago, these people are not stupid. So my tip for you on how to overcome the big O is pure and simple. Hit it straight on. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as a matter of fact, your house will be the first $1 million house I've ever listed and sold. In fact, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to make my mark on the listing and sale of your property. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be the last thing I think about every single morning, every single night before I go to sleep. And the first thing I think about every single morning when I wake up. Your sale of your house is going to be my number one focus. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to take any more listings in your price range or in your location, whatever the case may be, until you have an accepted offer on your property. Let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. How does it feel to have somebody this determined, this focused, this motivated, this driven to get your property sold?
Yeah.
You make it into an asset. You hit it square in the head. Because think about this, and you'd never want to diss your competition. But again, when I talk to agents across the country and around the world, the number one thing I heard when I talked about the competition in the markets you want to break into from the other luxury real estate experts was a little bit of aloofness, a little bit of a sense of entitlement. They have tons of listings. They delegate showings. No, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, your house will be my number one focus. No more listings in your price range will I take until your thing is sold, till your house is sold. That's all you can do is hit it squarely on the head. And you know what's going to happen? Are you going to win every single time? No. But more often than not, the person on the other side of the table, the high net worth individual, is going to see a glimmer, a flicker, a hint of where he or she once was when they started out. They're going to see the audacity, the bravery, the confidence, and the drive that you have, and they're going to want to be a part of it. They're going to want that for their property, and they're going to sign with you. Just have to do it and do it and do it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I know people have taken listings with agents, like you said, who don't have that experience and they don't have the, the track record, but they're hungry and they're going to work hard. And some sellers, they like that. They're like, Jack, I know you're going to be working on my listing 24/7, so I like that.
But I did it from a value standpoint. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to take any more listings in your price range or in your location until we have an accepted offer on your house. And then I ask the question. This question is critical. Let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. What does it feel like to have an agent this driven, this motivated, this just burning to sell your property, as opposed to, yeah, I got another one today. That's number 20 I have now. I mean,
Yeah, and it's a win-win, because if you're breaking into the luxury market and if it's, well above your average sales price, if it's 1.5 or 2.5,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's worth it for you as a realtor to put in that effort. Exactly.
And even today, after all these, once in a while, I'll go to a new area of my market, on Cape Cod here, and I'll have that happen. They'll say, well, how many homes have you sold in this area? Well, none. But I'll sell yours, anyway.
Well, that's a great.
Always, and I guess that'll be tip number 3. I'll slide in here now. Always tell the truth. Always. First of all, if you don't, I wouldn't be able to keep it straight. I'd mess it up because I wouldn't be able to keep it straight. But like I said before, everybody finds out everything sooner or later, and today it's sooner than later. So just tell the truth. Don't run away. Don't distract. Don't hide. Don't try to bury it. Just hit it head on, and people appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so true. And like you said, the people that you're dealing with, the high net individuals, they deal with a lot of other people in their other businesses who are not truthful, who are not forthright. And then they're like, hey, my realtor, he or she is being honest with me. Go figure.
They have no patience for it. They have no patience or tolerance for it. None. And they shouldn't either.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And I think what you said, everything gets found out. It's like, I know you do a home inspection and your buyer says, well, Mario, what do you think of this? And if you kind of gloss it over, and if you say it's no big deal, and then a year later it turns into a big deal, they're going to remember that.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, those are all excellent tips. And I'll put the links to your books on your speaker page. And
awesome.
You're a great resource for all the realtors. And one thing that I like about your style is I've come into contact with other luxury realtors, but you're very down to earth. You remember your roots. You and I talked on the podcast, and started out really young, a long hair hippie, and.
Yeah.
But you're very down to earth. You come across as a regular guy, and I think that is to your credit. So thank you.
My pleasure.
So here's the bonus question. Very easy.
All right.
So
don't stump me now.
Yeah. So here we are. It's the middle of January 2016. We're here at the summit. I just want you to look back last year, 2015, and share with us a goal, an accomplishment, something that you're very proud of. Could be personal, could be business, because I think it's good for us to kind of look back and be proud of what we achieved.
Oh, so a goal that I set in 2015 that I achieved in 2015?
Yes.
Right. Well, there were a number of them, but the one I think I'm most excited about was that I made a goal to become a coach for agents who want to increase their average price range and get into luxury real estate. And I've been fearful of that, quite frankly, because I always wonder, am I good enough? Am I good enough? And, to be a coach to help other people on a one-on-one basis. So what I did was I enrolled in a coach certification program and started building my expertise. What a concept. Like, how can I coach agents in how to be successful in luxury real estate, the cornerstone of which is become an expert in that corner without becoming an expert in coaching at the same time. So I'm working on getting certified by the Coaching Federation, which a lot of people in real estate say is a total waste of time. You don't need that. I do. I need to feel like I'm an expert if I'm going to help agents become experts in their fields. And how can you can't take someone somewhere you've never been yourself. And so I have signed up. I'm already a third of the way through the class, the program. It takes months and months and months. And I've already got my first coaching clients, and I've got room for a couple more. And I'm real excited about that because for me, it's what makes the business fun and interesting after 42 years of doing the same thing in the same market.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point about, being a coach. I think two things I take away from that is, number one, increasing your average sales price. I've talked about this so many times. That's one of the secrets to success as a real estate agent, because you can make more money when you can increase your average sales price without having to increase your number of transactions. So I think that's real value that you bring. And then the second thing is, you and I know this, there's so many coaches in our industry, and people say they're a coach, but being a coach by just telling people what to do is not coaching.
No, that's not.
Yeah, and what you said is you got to take them from where they are to where they want to be, and you coach them through that process.
Yes.
And I think that, what you're doing is really cool.
It's a ton of work, but I love it. It's a blast. And it affects all areas of your life. I mean, I had a situation, I'm not going to be, where somebody was trying not to honor the co-fee they offered in MLS on a $2 million listing. And my agent put the deal together, and then they saw the agreement, and the co-fee was different than what was posted in MLS. And the owner broker of the company, the listing company, said, well, yeah, the seller is not going to pay that thing, and we hope you don't mind. It's only 10 grand anyway. So, he said, well, you're gonna have to talk to Jack about that. So maybe a year ago, I would have just begun that conversation with some unpleasant language, let us say. And but this coaching thing just permeates your whole being. So I basically just coach the person through our little difference of opinion here. And I basically, it's like 3 sentences were all I said. My last sentence was, I respectfully ask you to reconsider your request. And it took about 2 hours. It came back and said, we'll honor it. We're done. It's all set. So in other words, I didn't say, I refuse, you're a jerk, you're going to do this no matter what, I'm taking you to the board. I didn't say any of that. All I said was, I think if the situation was reversed, you would expect me to live up to the promise I made in MLS. I respectfully ask you to reconsider your request. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything. I just said, I put it all back on him. I gave him the opportunity to step up and rise to the occasion and be the better person. And he did, to his credit.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good, because I know I might have been the person yelling and screaming too. So
I would have before I started this whole odyssey. Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jack, for being here at the summit. This is a wealth of information. I'm going to take good notes. I'm going to watch this again.
All right.
So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. You do such wonderful work, and you're such a resource to real estate agents across the country. And you come from a standpoint of love and integrity for the business, and it's refreshing and fun. I'm glad to be associated with you.
Well, thank you. Those are kind words. I appreciate it.
They're heartfelt.